I was visiting with my family in Los Angeles, last week. And the family has expanded now. There are 6 grandchildren running around in various homes that we go to, and there's a lot of enormous activity. And it's really fascinating to me because I was just watching everybody. And I had this image, adults and children, that we were all galaxies in space, kind of colliding and bouncing off one another, moving and separating, and having these little tiny moments of intermingling and then off again. And it was, in a way, fascinating and energetic. But one of the things I really felt was how vastly different we all were. That in our superficial, worldly sense, we were not really connecting. What I was experiencing was something I guess I've always experienced with my family, which is we kind of love each other. There is a kind of bond, an attraction that keeps us in the same sort of generalized space of the universe. And we have this way of moving around in different circles, and some circle each other, and some move through each other and pass beyond, and it's very abstract on some level. But what I kept looking for was something that would make this gathering worth it. The thing that seems to center these gatherings, and you probably are familiar with this, is food and drinks. And that pulls people together into very close circles because they all want some. And they all start getting very close, and then they're in your face, and then there's like, so what's going on? How's it going? What's happening with your life? And you start to share these moments that are story moments that you've just had in your life, and there appears to be some glancing interest in what you're saying sometimes, but often you sense it's going in, going, gone. It has no adhering principle. It's just energy exchanges, informational exchanges, these things that are happening between people that have very little content, very little cosmic weight. It's just like, I exist, you exist, I exist, you exist, we exist, we're here together, this is happening, this is nice, this isn't so nice. It's very amorphous, and it's very unsatisfying. Now sometimes it's more dramatic than other times. There are real tensions between people. There are certain kinds of needs to be together, like sharing. There are people I get together with, we almost can't hug enough. We're just so happy to be in each other's presence, but we don't have anything to say, really, but we just want to know that we're there. It's a chaos of experience, true chaos. And these glancing moments are relevant, resonant in some way, and over. And yet when it's over, I think people think, well, wasn't that great? We all got together. We all had this wonderful family gathering. But I walked away from this last one saying, you know what? Honestly, I could have programmed in my head everything that was going to be said between every single person there. There was zero need for me to be there. I knew the entire dialogue, I knew the entire exchange, that it was almost entirely empty. And I kind of wondered, why would I go back? Why would I do this again? The informational content will shift a little bit, but not a lot. People's financial situations are shifting around a little bit, and that's kind of interesting to watch. The kids are definitely growing and changing, so that's kind of intriguing, but they're very chaotic and very noisy and in their own little dramatic sphere. And what I kept looking for and what I kept reaching for was something we get in this class, which is connection. Real, momentary interaction and acknowledgement of our true being. The richness of life, the richness of social interaction is two people seeing one another, actually being aware of each other, actually connecting emotionally, viscerally, intellectually, physically, knowing that we have just affirmed each other's true being. It's kind of why we're here. Why does the universe, in its singular form, take such a multiplicity of forms? Why? My sense of it is, it's not just to glance off one another, it is to connect to one another, clearly in the deepest sense to reproduce each other. But this thing of connection is so vibrant and so real. And I don't know how many of you experience this, but touch is at the core of connection. And one of the really interesting things is to take your forefinger and your thumb and put them together and touch yourself. Touch. 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 Rest upon yourself. My hands on my thighs. There's this extraordinary sense of, through touch, knowing that you are. Touching another, as we all know in the realm of sexuality, is as great as it gets. Being touched is great. It's so important. It's probably why we incarnate, why we have bodies, so that the planetary distribution or the galactic distribution has a way of acknowledging the other galactic form. Two galaxies looking at one another don't interact very much, but as soon as the galaxy imagines it has a body, it has eyes and nose and ears and a mouth, and it's an energy formation that becomes solid. That solidity, that energy solidity, gives us a kind of a capacity to acknowledge one another in absolute physical proximity. I can shake your hand, I can hug you, I can kiss you, I can love you, I can acknowledge your being in a way that stars spinning through space probably can't. And yet, I'm aware that we are both galaxies spinning in space that have noses and eyes and ears and mouth and actually have a kind of physiological truth. And I'm also aware that we are empty space. We are energy formations. And that, in a certain sense, the energies that we have form these very different looking bodies, bodies that have different kinds of complexities, physiological, emotional, biological. We're very similar, but we're not the same. And that lack of sameness is what makes us so fascinating to one another. Our energies are really different. We're really different from one another. And learning to connect with another person is the beginning of a journey or a voyage into discovery. And the ultimate discovery in that journey into one another is that you're the same being. That's the lesson. You are not two. You're one. And the unbelievable resistance we have to knowing that, the fear the fact that we look at each other as alien forms so often, that we are so protective of our own individual self and so afraid to truly, truly commit to another person. And yet we are energy forces that become attracted to each other and repelled from one another, that we have a dialogue with one another that can be enriching and informing and expanding, and it can also be, a dramatic and combative relationship. You know, I was walking down the street in New York last night, and these two guys were walking by. They were yelling at each other. They were yelling. They were interacting, but it was mean-spirited. It was dark. It was unpleasant. And I watched this energy in these two planets kind of in a warring zone, or two galaxies that were kind of colliding with one another. And I realized there's so many forms that this kind of interaction takes. And I watched people at this party the other day, and I went, oh, we're so close but disconnected. We're so familiar but we don't know one another. We're so part of a process. We've been together for decades and we have barely really exchanged anything that has content or meaning. And it's so frustrating, because I would like to sit with every one of the people that I'm with and just do with them what I do with you, which, well, in my case, it's kind of preaching, but in the best case, it's a dialogue. It's a real exchange where two people talk to one another, where they open their hearts. I spent 3 days with my sister about 3 weeks ago in Atlanta, and we just walked. We just walked and walked and walked and walked and talked and talked and talked and talked. And with my sister, I have what I have with you guys. We actually deeply, deeply connect. We actually sit and do open-eye meditation. We have a sense of energy merging that is beyond belief. Even before I understood what open-eye meditation was, my sister and I would look at one another and we would disappear. I would look into her face, she'd look into my face, she would become all of these beings, and I would go, oh, what is this? But I knew I was in touch with something remarkable, and we both, my sister and I, have this feeling that we incarnated in the same family because of each other, because we needed to know and acknowledge each other. It would be so beautiful in life if our families provided us with this kind of connectivity. But we don't even have it often with our own children. And we don't often have it with our siblings or our parents. Often our parents and our siblings and our children are actually the combative force. They're the problem. And what you want more than anything is this kind of alignment, this kind of looking at each other and going, I know you. I know you. I know who you are. I'm looking at myself. That's really what we want. It's the most beautiful thing that can ever happen. And I never knew what that was about, really, until Rudy. And I would come into a class with Rudy, often with him sitting right here and me sitting where you are, and I would just look at him, and he would look at me, and there were no barriers, there were no walls, the molecularity of our energies completely intersected. He found his way into my heart, he found his way into my third eye, into my throat chakra, into my gut. He found his way into every molecule of my being, and he lifted them up. He filtered me with this incredible kind of buoyancy. He gave me this uplift. He took my entire biological, metaphysical, physiological nature, and he infused it with this lightness of his being. And I was lifted up. And I was felt, I was known, I was acknowledged, and I knew I was looking at myself. That's what myself looked like. He looked like Rudy. And when I saw what that was, of course, that's all I wanted. I wanted that in my life with everyone and every person I was with. And of course, you know, it's not easy to get. It's not easy in the day-to-day world unless you have some kind of unusual configuration, which we will call satsang, a gathering of like minds sitting and willing to let go of their separateness, to let go of their unique individuality and find this connectivity that allows us to really come together and honor, worship, acknowledge, and feel and connect with ourself. This is a rare thing, guys. I think you know that. This does not happen every day, and if it happened every day, you wouldn't have to come here. You wouldn't have to seek out a separate place to go to where you could actually experience another person as self without being threatened, without being frightened, without being judged. Because one of the things I understood through Rudy, and certainly through my own teaching, if you judge anyone you're working with or sitting with or being with, you're not with them. If there's a voice connecting and going, this person sounds good, they don't have this, that, as soon as there's any of those voices, you're not connected. That's going to be with your family. They're sitting there going, oh my God, he put on weight. Oh my God, she looks great. Oh, this is great. Oh, she should try my cheesecake. She doesn't like my cheesecake. Oh my God, what's wrong with my cake? You know, there's all of these things kind of going on in the family circle that are completely alien to what we're talking about here. And what we're talking about here is so easy and so desirable and so unrealized by most people. I know people in my family who've never had this experience, who have never looked into another person and seen themselves. They all look into another person's eyes, including their spouse's eyes, and see other, alien, problem, cause of my problems, cause of my suffering. That's why I'm not happy. You know, and that's what happens, and it happens all the time because we don't own ourselves, and we can't therefore find our way into anybody else. So what's happening in the satsang environment, in this environment, is we are learning, one, to trust stillness, openness, being, surrender, availability, and to allow another to see us and to be seen and to share in that. And when it really works well, you walk away from it feeling, I have seen who I am. It has a face, in this case, of this guy you call Bruce, but you know, whenever I sit with you guys, your faces all disappear. It's really interesting to me. I cannot look at a face and have that face hold together for long. It starts to turn into an energy force. And I am almost literally looking into the cosmos. I'm looking into your cosmos. I'm looking into your expanse of galactic being. And I'm staring at it, I'm going, I mean, it's like, the wow factor is so great. It's so beautiful. It's so amazing. But I also, when I look into your faces, for whatever reason, I start to see, especially in a kind of almost diagnostic sense, that there are discordant notes, you might say, within the construct of the whatever you want to call it, the galaxy. There's something in it that's kind of stuck, knotted. And for whatever reason, you know, I see those spaces and something reaches in, almost literally, into the space of your cosmic being, and it goes, whoop. It just sends those little knotted configurations into a kind of spiral opening, and they just free themselves. And then the exchange becomes deeper and more powerful, more wonderful. And that is kind of what we're doing here. We are learning to commune with ourself in a way that would explain the possibility of paradise on earth if we could all do it with each other. But we don't. And most people can't. For a lot of reasons. We're certainly not tutored in that. We don't grow up learning how to share oneself openly and lovingly with another person. It's kind of learned. And it's kind of learned badly, and often through mistakes. Not that the universe wasn't created to work that way. It was. I mean, if it wasn't, we would all just be here cursing, coursing through one another, and experiencing this wonderful sense of energetic wholeness. But for some reason, we are biologically contained in a form, in a body, in a look, in a physicality that gives us something that we really treasure, which is we can touch each other and not just see each other as energy. We can touch each other physically. We're still energy, guys. We're still molecular. We're still electrons, neutrons, protons. We're all of these things moving in various ways. That's what we are. And when you sit in class, you get to look at the electronic structure, if you will, or the cosmological structure of a person. But when that's over, we come back to this, and we know that this is that. We know that we are both form and formless, physical and metaphysical. We are the totality. At one moment we appear to be one thing, at another moment another. When you enter into what I call the timelessness of the inner being, you're everything at the same time. And there's no way for any kind of mind, human mind, to understand that. How can we be in time and out of time? How can we be physical and metaphysical, formless and formed? How does that happen? No way to know. But I know that we in this class are experiencing the ineffable reality of that truth. And we get to know each other in a way that is deeper than our story, deeper than our dramas, deeper than our tensions and our disappointments and our ambitions. All of that falls away, and we just get to be together, to be one together. And there's also something remarkable that happens in this class that I call cross-pollination. When a group assembles, that group has a dynamic energy. Each person in the room is part of that dynamic energy, and all of our energies commingle during the class. And when the class is over, you move away from that commingling in a way more whole. Something one person has migrates to someone who needs it. Somebody else's need is suddenly activated by somebody else's desire. All of these things start to interact in the course of a class, and the whole class benefits from each other's presence. Everybody. You all walk away from this enriched by having been here. This is extraordinary. This is energy at work. It's something that kind of happens in my family's gathering, except it's collisions. All these things happening, and it's happening superficially. It's happening on the surface. It doesn't enter in deep. Now, I have certain family members where I sit down with them, and we sit in the corner and we talk. And they're pretty reliable. Certain of these people are reliable. So I know when I go to these gatherings, I'm going to walk away with some content. I also know there are people that I'm going to see there that I have seen for years and years that I have never honestly spoken to. I have a cousin in Detroit, and she and her husband once came to visit Blanche and I in Los Angeles, and we were in our 50s. And we went out to dinner, and I said, "Oh my God, do you realize we have never sat together and talked like this in our entire life?" My first cousin. We never had a dialogue. We've always, "Hi, how are you? What's going on now? How are the kids?" Goodbye. We actually talked. I got to know my cousin when we were in our 50s. It actually works like that. If you don't stop, make an effort, find a way in, become something that takes advantage of a situation, you will walk through an entire life never having met anybody or known anybody in any real sense. You will have a life of absolute superficiality, galactic collisions and touchings and momentary sort of glancing at each other, but it's not the universe awakening to itself. So this is the training ground. We are here learning how to be with another person. Now, some of it is actually looking at people. We do this eyes open meditation and we look at one another. That gets weird for a lot of people, and you can't do that, honestly. It's very hard to do eyes open without an acknowledgement of what that is and with some understanding of how it works. So I wouldn't do that. That's sort of imposing yourself on people. But what you can do is you become present tense. You become present to the moment, and you become filled with presence. And then, when you're with somebody, be present with them. And your presence is a kind of energy field. It's a field of clarity. It can be much bigger than your body. It's much bigger than your physicality. It wafts out. And some people, you can feel people who are really present. They have a bigness about them. And you can walk into a room, you can sit down with one person or a table full of people and be present. And that energy field, it encompasses people. And they feel really aligned, connected, happy to be there. Things are flowing. They are in dynamic exchange. And you can become the person who creates that environment simply by showing up present, awake, and being available to anybody in that room. That's using your energy without being manipulative of it, without trying to be the center of attention. You can just be present, and that energy will filter, and everything will happen as it should. And it doesn't have you at the center, because one of the great things about presence is it has no center. It just is. So while it's working its wonders around people, you just sit back. You sit there. And if it comes back into needing your presence, you'll say something, and we'll have a moment of exchange with other people, and then it will go to somebody else and someone else, and it just keeps moving around in this space. That's real life. And it can be very beautiful. And if you are deeply present, the dialogue, the exchange, the connection will be deeply felt. It will be smart. It will be well spoken. People will really walk away feeling like they got something out of the exchange. And energy will be moving and flowing the way it needs to and wants to, because you help to bring it there. That's the gift of the kind of work we do. We are energetic beings learning how to use energy for the betterment not of ourselves, but of ourself, of everyone around us. And it's the most wonderful, beautiful thing to do. And you can feel it here after we have a class. You know, everybody hugs, and everybody sits together, and people are funny, and people are smart, and there's people are not tripping over one another and not saying me, 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 me. There's something really extraordinary about people just being, that's the word, together. Does it happen in society outside of people doing satsang and meditation? Of course. It does. But this is the conscious version. This is the version where you know what you're doing, where you are aware, where you pay attention, where you are conscious of the opportunity and the availability of making a situation flow. It's a really beautiful quality. And every one of you is learning how to do that. Every one of you has a gift inside you that can do that. Use it. Use it. Practice. Try it. It's really, I mean, this whole thing that we're doing here, this meditative experience, is not so that we can walk around, I don't know, in flowing robes and have people kiss our feet and do all of that thing. I mean, that to me that's kind of the opposite of what I'm talking about. It doesn't put you at the center. It puts everyone at the center. And that's kind of an amazing thing to see that happen. Everybody's central. Everybody is special. Everybody is unique. Everybody has an energy that is worth it, that their existence here is worth honoring on some very fundamental level. Everyone. Everyone. And I'm talking about the people at that party, all of my family. They're all worth it. I don't think they know it. I don't think they know it. And all I can tell you is, if you can help somebody along the way stop for one moment, and you can look them in the eye and put your arm around their shoulder and shake their hand in a particular way and just say, it's great to see you, great to be with you, and really mean it, it will go right into them, and they'll know they were seen and touched and felt and appreciated, and that the energy of the universe found itself, that it connected. In the best of worlds, it is revelatory and life-changing and totally transformative. It does not have to be that. It can just be kind and gentle and sweet and momentary. We are trying here to allow you to see yourself as energetic entities, to see the constructions and the constrictions of your energy, to see where you can work to make it open and more valuable and more vivid. That's great. That's a really wonderful, wonderful thing. But ultimately, the whole journey that we are on is this thing that sits still, becomes wildly present, and just bows down before itself all day long. That's what we're doing. I'm telling you, each one of you is worth bowing down to. Each one of you is worth it. And if you know that, and you start to feel that, you will become relieved of the need to make people feel it. You won't have to walk around, what about me, what about me? You are already that. And that's part of the enormous relaxation that comes with spiritual growth or spiritual unfolding. You finally go, I'm okay, I'm worth it. Whether people see it or don't see it, I know it's true because I know who I am. And when you really know who you are, you don't have to announce it to anybody, you don't have to do anything. People will find you. And they will want just to shake your hand and say hello and be tapped on the shoulder and acknowledged. Because it's such a beautiful thing to have somebody really, really see you. So, appreciate your physicality, appreciate your energetic aspect. Try to love and open to the totality of what you are, and try to see that everyone around you is no different than you. They are a different configuration, and you can glance off of one another, or you can actually make contact. And if you make contact, your life will be full of contact. And if you don't make contact, it will be an ephemeral, superficial experience, and then it will be over. Your choice. It's great to connect, trust me. Any questions?
You know, some of my family, but sometimes with family, but also at parties, the drama that goes on, if it's at the parties at my house, it comes in and it leaves when everybody leaves. And a lot of, and the same thing with the parties, I'll walk into a party, it's like full blast, like chaos, it's just nuts. And a lot of times they just feel invisible. And that's it. And so in terms of like making the connection or not making the connection and having my life sort of pass by in a snap of the fingers without having that superficial connection, sometimes I think I don't really want to engage in all that stuff.
Well, that's a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if like I said, I don't really need to have another party with my whole family, because I can just sit down in my head and play the entire tape and it's over and I didn't have to go through it. On the other hand, they're my family. And they're going to occur again and again and again. So what I'm trying to figure out is, what can I do to find my way into at least some of the people who are there and come out of it enriched, like there was a real sharing and a real exchange. That to me is very valuable. And it saddens me that there are people who will not let that happen, but there are people who really are there to let that happen, and you can find them if you seek them out. It will just start to happen, and you'll say, that's why I'm here. It happens to me all the time. I say, why am I at this? Why did I come to this thing? And then you find the one person you were meant to talk to. And then there explains the whole thing. It's really kind of wonderful. But you have to be open to that.
I've done that. You mentioned that, and it's like the person on the other side of the room that you can barely see that's not talking to anybody. And
that was Rudy's. You know, Rudy's famous line to me was, whenever he goes to a party, he always goes to the person he least wants to talk to, because there's the most value in that. And that's sort of what I do.
But is it like aren't those instances like really just an opportunity to really surrender yourself and find out where that, you know, and because I'm sure everybody thinks that in the same situation when you have that family that you're just like just as you explained, right? And then next time it just that you get that opportunity to just surrender just a little bit more so you can meet that person somewhere.
I think that's what it's about. I mean, I think these are important connections, and it's important to find your way in.
But also sometimes I think, you know, there's so many people I've met with and I've known for a very long time, and it's just there's people that you meet and you know right away your energy is meeting and you're right there. And then there's other people that you know it's like pushing away. And maybe in a situation like that, there's nothing that you can offer or nothing they have to offer you that's really going to make that situation of growth, and that's why you're not. Right.
No, I agree. I mean, there are people in this lifetime that I know close to me that I will never have a really profound dialogue with. It's not going to happen, you know. And if it does happen, I'll be very, very surprised. But you know, I keep trying to find other ways. The hug. You know, when I hug somebody, It's not like, hi, how are you? And I actually have people I know who hug you and push you away at the same time. Hi, how are you? You know, I give it that extra 12th of a second or whatever it is, and I make sure they know I have felt them. It's a dance you have to do. Mostly, the hard part of a party like this is that you see people running in their own tiny little circles, and you know they're not going to get out of it, and they know that you're not going to get into it. They're not going to let you in. It's all very, very quick, very superficial, and it's like that year after year after year after year. Do you have to break that down? Probably not. Do you need to go to that party? Well, that's when I say, why am I at this party? And then I wait to see the reason.
Just one more, because I also have another situation. There's somebody that I really, that I know well, but really do not like. But on the other hand, it's like I can't stay away because I want to bridge that.
That's very conscious living.
Yeah.
I think I like that. I personally, that's what I try to do. It's the ones you have difficulty with have the most to offer you in the end. If you can find a way in, there's a great value in that.
I think the melancholy of family that we all feel that is the expectation of love. We expect them to love us, and we expect our exchanges to be warm, loving, and positive. When we have that with a stranger, it's a gift, and we acknowledge it as a gift, and it's valuable to us. And isn't it just like, a star fell from the sky? With our family, it chafes because we don't quite get there, and they are supposed to love us, and we are supposed to love them, and we share the same DNA, and we should feel close, and yet it is so superficial.
It's clearly this is touching the same nerve in everybody. I mean, we all have these experiences, and so what to do? I cannot not go to these gatherings. I am very aware of what's coming, but I can try, like I say, to find my way into whichever thing is going to be the most valuable for me and the other person at that gathering. If you come away with it with one person, it's worth it. The trick is the people you're probably never going to break through to, and that's just the way it is. There's a kind of an acceptance of that, and sometimes that acceptance actually may surprise you in one of these gatherings, because
I think it loosens once you have that acceptance and that lack of expectation, it almost makes you more attractive, because you no longer have the anxiety about it.
Right.
Just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your humanity and your spirituality and coming to be with us, that you do like you do, and all the trouble that must be, and expense. And I'm sure the majority here, probably everybody here, feels the same way. Thank you.
Well, thank you. But in truth, everyone who comes here, like I've said this a lot, there's no easy path to big Indian. Everybody has to go through something to get here. Everyone has 400 reasons why not to be here. And I acknowledge every one of them, and I come up with every one of them too. On the other hand, anyone who shows up here, it's a big deal. And what you're expressing to me, I would like to express to you and to everybody who's here, because I know this isn't easy, and it's easier to be home watching the game, whatever the game is, or doing something else, or saying, oh my God, it's going to rain today maybe, and all these reasons not to come. In the end, the great thing Rudy taught me was there is no reason not to. It's just your brain giving you reasons not to. Ultimately, breaking through the not wanting and not doing is what changes everything in your life. My life has changed because Rudy used to teach up here in the city. I would not miss a class, even though I had 1,000 other things that were better to do. When Rudy died, I did not feel like I had somehow not had enough. I had enough. I had what Rudy had to offer because I showed up. I'm grateful to have showed up. I'm grateful that you guys showed up. There's something, I said it, I think the last time I was here or somewhere, this wouldn't happen without you. This only happens because you're here. Or it's me in the shower. The water does not care what I'm saying. And I say exactly the same things in the shower that I'm saying to you. Trust me. This goes on all the time. And it has no benefit. So when you guys show up, it resonates a little bit. So thank you so much. Anybody else? Yeah, the shower might. I don't know. It's a very nice environment, I got to tell you. Wait.
One of the other thing you were talking about, how we all come together and we're all sharing that energy. it's more of a comment. You know, as far as paying attention to the teacher, when you're going from one to the other and going around, I compare it very much to when you're in a math class or an English class and the teacher says something to somebody, answers a question to somebody, but it's also, it's going to answer your question, which is really the point of, you know, staying focused on the teacher while you're in class. Not, I mean, now, yes, when we're talking, but when we're silent.
I feel it when I teach. I mean, I can be working with Dimitri over here, you know, and I can feel Tony having a reaction.
Yeah, right, I see that, yeah.
It happens all the time. All these things are going on, and we all have needs, and they're being met in funny, unexpected ways. And again, we're very connected. And in a space like this, where people drop all the barriers, and you're really sitting there, really open, it's unbelievable movement of energy, of molecules through, not real literal molecules, but energy forces moving through the room. And when one person's heart open, you can feel boom, 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 boom. Other hearts suddenly open up, or minds open up. There's a clarity, like I can see a clarity happening all over the place. And it's really, really beautiful. And it's really exciting to look into people's energy centers. Because when I look at you, now, when I'm looking at you now, I see you and the mustache and the glasses and your hair, and I see everything. When I look at you and we're working, meditating, that all goes away. It completely goes away. There's no face. Sometimes I go through a thing where there's a whole group of faces, one after another, and I go, You know, you see those faces, and then all the faces disappear. They all disappear, and I'm just seeing, almost literally, like galactic forms moving through space. And I can see movement in it. It's like a good special effect in a movie. It's so beautiful. And the whole room is like that. The whole room is now one galactic mass. And the energy from your head, I can see the energy going out like you know, those sunbursts in the movies we watch, and it goes out of the sun. It's going out to all these other people. And they're getting your energy. And your energy is so expansive and so luminous that when they get it, they suddenly become expansive and luminous. And maybe they weren't feeling that when they were sitting down earlier in the class. Now they're going to walk away with that. And it's a gift. You didn't lose anything. You just shined your light. It's really beautiful. And everybody here is doing it in their own particular way. It's so incredible to watch. And it's so incredible to be part of, you know. And all I am is a focal point. It's just a focal point. And it's not even a true center, because the center is moving. And there is no real center in the end. It's collected singularity. That's all I can tell you. And it's exquisite. It's exquisite. And that's what we are. That's what everyone is. But 99.99% of people don't have a clue. That's the sadness. They walk around lost and disconnected and unloved and unattached and wondering where it's at and why can't I have it and why did they have it and all of that stuff. You just want to stop. And you got it. You got it, kiddo. That's what you want to do, but it's hard to do that to every person. You know, but you can. I mean, I talked about this, I think, even maybe last time I was here. You can send energy into people you don't know, just walking down the street. You can go, just love. People do it. If somebody sexy is walking by, trust me, your energy goes right into them, and they know it completely. That they walk around waiting for that to happen. But it can happen in a much more conscious, joyful, accommodating way. You can look at a person and tell their suffering, their story, their difficulty, all of the stuff about them. It's all written in their face. Every one of you has it in your face. And you'll feel for them. Send it off. Send in your compassion. Say, I get it. I get how hard your life is. Not that trying to make them hold on to the hardness of it, but to feel a release from some of that. To feel that they're acknowledged and loved. You can do that all the time. It's not necessarily acknowledged back. It's not something that people are conscious that they got, but they got it. And you can do it.
It comes back, but it doesn't necessarily come back to what you think.
Yeah, no, it comes back in its own way. It comes back into the world. It circulates around. Life gets better. It gets sweeter. That's our job. You know? Do you have a question?
No, I was going to say that sometimes in the New York subway, you just meet faces.
Absolutely.
And they suddenly you meet and you smile. You find yourself smiling with a complete stranger.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
And I was on the MARTA, I think it's called, in Seattle, in Atlanta last week, coming from the airport into Atlanta. And this woman sat next to me, this very large, very heavy-set black woman, and I just fell in love with her. And I started talking to her. And she started talking to me, and we talked for 25 minutes, and everyone on the train was looking at us like, you know, because it's kind of, people don't do that. Everybody just stands there, you know, kind of going. And we had the most wonderful dialogue, and deep, it went into her personal life, my life, and it was like really wonderful. And that train ride is indelible inside me now. It's part of my life and part of her life, and it was beautiful. You can do that. You do it on the airplane. You do it everywhere. You know, it's how you say thank you to the person at the counter. You know, you can be in a constant state of gratitude and expressing your kindness to other people, or you can be shitty. Welcome. You know, you express your anger and your hostility, which people do, and trust me, that ripples out in the same way as your kindness does.
Yeah, I do it with my students. I have a lot of students that are Hispanic, and they got very difficult situations in their lives. And, you know, sometimes they just open up, and I have a beautiful classroom, and then, you know, somebody's sad, and why are you sad? And then suddenly start crying, and they feel really bad. Why, you know, that they shouldn't cry? And we're like, yes, just cry in class, just share, we're all friends. And we only been like a few weeks in class, and then I said sometimes people just fall in love with each other, and I have a beautiful class where everybody's loving each other. And
when I've had classes with really great teachers like you, that's what happens. The teacher makes it possible for everyone in the class to love everyone else in the class.
And I'll never forget you. I'll never forget you.
Yeah, they will never forget you. Mr. McCarty was my teacher. Mr. McCarty, and I never met anybody like him.
Yeah.
He treated us, we were 6th and 7th grade as adults, and he honored our being, and I've never felt more honored ever than I did by that man. Changed everything. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, you feel safe. And
Yeah, you feel safe.
Supported.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you can either do it consciously or unconsciously, or you don't do it. But ideally, the best version of this is conscious. Yeah. Okay.